Have you ever wondered how to use the Hermetic principles to manifest your deepest desires? Today, I invite you to explore the last of the 7 Hermetic principles from the Kybalion, the principle of gender, and another hidden principle within this last principle, the generative principle. This principle, attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, could hold the key to creation on all planes of existence. In this video, you'll discover how, by applying a key component that we will delve into later, along with the masculine and feminine gender principle, you can transform your reality. From the Hermetic teachings of Hermes to Hebrew Kabbalah and through the modern research of Dr. Joe Dispenza, we will see how these ideas interconnect and reveal a powerful method to achieve balance and conscious creation. Let's begin. The word gender comes from the Latin root meaning to conceive, procreate, generate, create, produce, and from the ancient Greek genesis, meaning birth. A moment's consideration on the matter will demonstrate that this word has a much broader and more general meaning than the term sex, which refers to the physical distinctions between male and female beings. Sex is nothing more than a mere manifestation of gender on a certain plane of the great physical plane, that of organic life. From the union of this duality of the masculine and feminine principles, something new is generated, what the alchemists called the tertium quid, or the third thing. But what is the role of the masculine and feminine principles in the creation of reality? Let's briefly review what the Kybalion tells us about the Hermetic principle of gender. It begins like this. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. The function of gender is solely to create, produce, or generate, and its manifestations are visible on all phenomenal planes. The role of the masculine principle seems to be to direct certain inherent energy towards the feminine principle, thereby setting in motion the creative process. The feminine principle is the only one that always carries out the active creative work on all planes of reality. However, each principle is unable to operate without the energy and assistance of the other. The masculine principle could be compared to a seed, while the feminine principle would be the fertile soil where that seed germinates and grows. But there's still something missing for that seed to grow into a big and strong tree. I bet you can imagine what it is. We'll detail it later on. The Hermetic teachings largely encompass the operation of the 2 principles of gender in the production and manifestation of various forms of energy and matter. At an early age, every person becomes aware of what is known as self-consciousness. They realize the existence of their self. I am, I exist. Initially, this seems to be the final word of consciousness, but a deeper examination reveals that this I am can be divided into 2 distinct parts or aspects that, although they work together and in conjunction, can be separated in consciousness. Eventually, the disciple acquires awareness of a being with 2 aspects, the self and the me. The me is the mental part where thoughts and ideas are generated, which in turn lead to emotions and feelings, revealing their power of creation and generation. However, it needs to receive energy from the self or another self to produce its mental creations and thus its actions. The self is the part of the being that desires something, the seed, the spark of spirit that drives us, the desire. On a physical level, this self or masculine principle, through the heart, emanates its vibrations and sets us in motion. But its emanation does not end in our physical body. Its magnetic field expands through the field and through resonance, synchronizing us with situations or things that resonate at the same frequency. The student realizes that their self may want their me to follow a creative line, remaining as a witness to that creation. This duality exists in everyone. The self is the aspect of the being, the me, that of becoming. Becoming is the process by which something is made or comes into being. The principle of correspondence operates here as in the creation of the universe. As above, so below, as below, so above. But how do these principles apply in the physical plane, and how can we use them to our advantage to manifest what we desire in our material existence? When we consciously apply the principle of gender and achieve the masculine and feminine principles working together, we can generate and create something new. Some authors, like Mark Passio, refer to an eighth principle, which can be seen as a hidden aspect within the principle of gender, the generative principle. This principle derives from the principle of gender and emphasizes that to create anything new, there must be balance and interaction of both masculine and feminine principles, and something even more fundamental: care. Care is what will make the seed we plant in fertile soil grow and develop. No matter how healthy the seed is or how many nutrients the soil has, without the necessary care, the seed will never thrive, especially in the early stages. Most people tend to primarily use their feminine principle, living according to the ideas of others and allowing other minds, the environment, the media, etc., to plant their seeds in our minds, turning us into their fields of cultivation. Instead of using their own will and masculine principle to consciously generate their reality, they act passively, and that masculine energy is taken over by the will of others. Sometimes this happens without malicious intent due to magnetic personalities with very powerful masculine energy influencing minds around them. However, in many cases, it's a deliberate action by those in power to keep us exactly where they want us, ignorant and unaware of our own power of creation. The key to creating our reality lies in our focused, sustained, and deliberately conscious attention to something. What are you focusing on? Because what you focus on is ultimately what is being generated, created, and developed. The fact that you don't focus on what you don't want and pay no attention to it doesn't necessarily keep it away from you. By not focusing on what you desire and remaining ignorant of what you don't want, you may see it manifested in your life because others will manifest it, or you will unconsciously attract it. As the Kybalion states in its principle of polarity, to eliminate something unwanted from your life, it's not enough to ignore it. You must focus on the opposite pole. Ignorance cannot be eliminated by neglecting it. Instead, knowledge must be acquired, focusing on its opposite. The key to manifesting and creating lies in care. Care should be understood here as what you are dedicating your energy and focus to. It is what truly matters enough to you to invest your time and attention in, and to generate actions directed towards that desire or purpose, thus seeing it manifested in your world. Most people don't care enough about what's really happening in their lives. They tend to blame their surroundings, their bosses, their partners, their traumas, and external circumstances in general for what happens to them. As a result, it becomes very difficult to get what we want or desire because our energy is scattered, and we are at the mercy of the currents without a defined direction. Above all, we must put our heart and what we desire first, giving it the care it deserves so that it can develop and be generated and attracted into our lives. By focusing our energy through our attention and focus on what we want, we project our masculine principle into the vessel of the feminine principle, and together they initiate the generative act of creation and attraction along with our actions. The generative creative principle never stops acting, but when we don't give it the necessary care, When we don't give it the proper attention and focus, we wander aimlessly. This is how the law of attraction really works. The hidden principle within the principle of gender is the dynamics of care. What matters to us daily acts as the driving force of our thoughts and actions. Heart, mind, and action, in that order. First, the spark ignites in the heart that plants the seed in the mind, and through constant care, this seed develops. The mind begins to work, and through imagination, it starts to create on higher planes. Our reticular activation system also kicks in to identify opportunities in the physical plane, among other processes. At the same time, the heart guides us, connecting us with energy vibrating at the same frequency as what we desire and enhancing mental impressions and creations with its magnetic power. As we can see, it's an inseparable tandem that feeds back and enhances each other when working together. Finally, our actions must also align with our mind and heart, forming the perfect triad and bringing down from higher planes to the dense planes of matter what we desire to see manifested in our lives. In Hebrew Kabbalah, there is a very similar concept, that of becoming a king. This is achieved when our intentions or desires align with our thoughts, emotions, and actions. When this happens, it is said that one becomes king and reigns over their own kingdom. The most critical aspect to becoming king is emotion. Emotion controls action and is an emitter system that projects the vibrations we feel in our body and emit to the universe. The word Kabbalah comes from the Hebrew verb lekabel, which means to receive, and what we receive is divine light. The greatest Kabbalists in history have taught that this is achieved through focus on the heart. The heart is associated with a sephira or sphere on the tree of life known as Tiferet, which is said to be the most important sephira of all. It is found in the middle of the tree of life. Tiferet, or the heart, is called the king of the soul, but who is the king? A king is called a person who is capable of dominating their body, mind, and emotions. That is, who is not enslaved by guilt, passions, or external influences. Tiferet, the king or the heart, is the midpoint of the balance column, which means that the key is to balance every aspect of life and soul. It is said that when what is felt, what is thought, and what is done work together, Keter, the highest sephira corresponding to the higher plane of the mind and translated as crown, that is, the spirit or divine light, descends into the heart. At the same time, Malkut, which translates as kingdom and is the lower sephira representing matter, rises to the heart. It is then when the king is crowned to reign over his reality, that is, over the material kingdom. In modern times, renowned writer and researcher Dr. Joe Dispenza has also emphasized in his research the coherence between the mind and heart in the realm of manifestation. In his work, Dispenza explores how aligning thoughts and emotions can influence a person's reality, suggesting that this coherence is key to creating positive changes and achieving personal and material goals. Compare the heart to a pump in the body. What does a pump do? It's a generator. It provides energy and moves life force through the blood in the body. In every ancient tradition, there is talk of life force in the blood. The heart is what pumps that life force through all physiology, allowing us to sustain life. The heart is the generator, the pump, the center of being. As important as the brain is, the heart ultimately generates the experience because what matters to us influences what we think daily and therefore how we behave and what actions we take or refrain from taking. That's why care comes first. So that's the order. Heart, mind, action. Care, knowledge, and action. Those are the steps, and all three must be present. That's consciousness of unity, unifying thoughts, emotions, and actions in such a way that there is no contradiction between them. Care is what generates everything. That's why it's called the generative principle. If you haven't watched the latest video where I discuss the other Hermetic principles and how to apply them, I recommend you do so. It will give you a more comprehensive understanding. What do you think of this latest principle? I would like to read your opinion in the comments. Thank you very much for watching until the end, and if you found this information useful and enriching, I would appreciate your support with a like and subscribing if you haven't already. Until the next video.